Hi everyone, and welcome to the first episode of The Product of a Strong Woman. My name is Jimenez, but everyone calls me Liz. First and foremost, I want to say thank you so much for spending this time with me. Not only is this my first episode, this is a huge time in my life right now, a very important time where everything is just pivoting, and your support and time mean the world to me. Thank you. Now, I'm going to share a little bit about myself so you get to know me. I am a mom of two. I have a girl and a boy. I was born in Peru, raised in Miami, Florida. I moved to New York City at the age of 23. And then I relocated to New Jersey once I had my little ones. So my journey in the place I've been able to live and just immerse myself in different cultures, amazing food, has been beyond amazing, and I'm grateful. I met my husband actually in New York City, so amazing experience. Now, in regards to my background, it's been in the healthcare field for a very long time. It's just a path I knew I was going to take from very early on. I began my career as an EMT, working for a private ambulance. Then I had the amazing opportunity to work in Brooklyn, New York, FDNY EMS for like around 5-6 years. I knew that was not going to be my long-term career, so I went ahead and I became a registered nurse. And I began my career as a critical care nurse. And that was extremely foundational, amazing, just a time where my mind was just blown away of everything I was learning. Then I went ahead and I explored vascular access nursing. And once I became a mom, I knew things were going to change dramatically. And it sure did. I don't say that I found hypnotherapy, but hypnotherapy found me at a time in my life where everything was just feeling heavy and unknown. And now I'm a clinical hypnotherapist as well. I have my practice, it's called Unlock Serenity, and I have the pleasure to be able to help people now, not just in the physical form, how I did in the hospital, but now I get to really help them go back to root causes of what they're struggling with and how they want to redirect their lives. So that is a little bit about myself. Now, I want to jump right into what is the product of a strong woman? What does it mean? Where did this title come from? What is the intention of this? And I thought the best way to do this was by reading it from a book I was a part of. Now, this book was published this year in April. I was one of the 5 authors in the book. My chapter is 4 and it's called The Product of a Strong Woman. Now, in the end of the chapter, I write about when did this come about, and here we go. So, The Product of a Strong Woman was born in the summer of 2012. I had moved back to Miami with my boyfriend, now husband, to start our lives. This transition period was meant to represent new beginnings, but everything broke down instead. I once heard that there are endings and there are beginnings, and the two always meet. My relationship with my boyfriend ended and he moved back to New York. My family and I were not on speaking terms, and I had moved in with a close friend's grandmother. I have always been very active and decided to go on a run at Coral Reef Park in Miami, Florida. I remember running and feeling lost. Even though there was a path to follow, I felt disconnected from myself. I was running, trying to somehow leave the heaviness I felt in my heart behind. I began to cry and run for the first time. And I silently heard, the product of a strong woman. All I could say weeping was, how can I feel this sad and be strong? I was raised by a strong woman, so why do I feel so weak inside? This would lead me to the pursuit of understanding the relationship of strength, self-love, and woman. As years passed by, I realized that I had always felt strong, but never powerful. And this was such a turning point in my life. That was back in 2012. And I experienced it again in 2015, where things were kind of falling apart. And again, I heard the same thing. But this time, I didn't meet it with resistance. I actually met it with a surrendering, because I realized there's something big here. I'm revolving into the same experiences. So I took my time to just sit down and understand it more. And that's how my journey began. And little did I know that it was going to progress into a podcast. Now, I want to share 2 important things that happened at this moment. And it is the fact that when I heard this, when I felt weak and not strong, one of the things that happened right away was the identity of strength shattered. So for a long time, for my whole life, right, until my mid-20s when I first heard this in 2012, my identity of strength was based on what I had grown up with. My mom We migrated from Peru. My dad passed away when we moved here, and she had to be very strong. Her circumstances were quite challenging. So her strength was based on you just got to keep going, regardless of what's happening, right? So at that moment, I realized, wow, I had been comparing my strength to my mother's. I literally had the moment where it was like a separation. And that was quite difficult because I almost felt like, I don't want to say I'm a failure, but like, am I not like going to be good, like in my mother's eyes? Am I not going to represent strength like she has this whole time, right? So looking back now, I realize, although this moment felt so difficult, so painful, exposing what was no longer working actually created a space of empowerment. It created the foundation for me to redefine what strength was for me in my current circumstances, not my mother's, right? So this just was such an amazing time looking back now. It did not feel like this back then. And the second thing that I feel was such a crucial moment, and I'm sharing these two things because anytime we're going through a breakdown, which I feel it's a breakthrough, these are things that will most likely occur. The breaking, the shattering of an identity. And the second thing is the beginning of detachment of sense of self. This I would say was one of the hardest things because this is what transitioned and throughout my whole journey. And I really feel like it's still evolving and I'm still learning a lot more of this in my life, in my path. And what do I mean by detachment of sense of self? Well, my identity was that I was a strong woman. And what does that mean then? That then my reality has to match so that way I could identify as a strong woman. And that's why I say when I have my clients, when we say I am, you bring it to life. I feel, you bring it to the light. So I could have maybe back then, now that I understand, when I needed to be strong, I feel strong, right? Why do I feel strong? Why do I need to feel strong at this moment rather than I am strong? Because that means that is who I must be at all times. So when this began, I realized it actually because at that time, I had moved back to New York City. And every time I went back to home, I would hear similarities of, you're changing, you're not the same person, you've just changed. And it was very difficult for me because I had a clear understanding that I was literally unraveling everything that was not me. And what I was presenting was basically probably not being accepted. And that's okay. It's not that they weren't accepting me, it's just that for all these years, I had identified myself and I was, I don't want to say playing a role, but everything was created through this identity that I had created for myself. So as this progressed and the detachment began, I think the hardest part, like I mentioned, was mainly the people that I love the most. Them seeing the shift, the changes in my life, and being confused about it, right? And after that, I began to look more within. I knew as this journey began, the answers were all within me because I had been doing the work. I was going to these workshops or reading the books, listening to podcasts. I mean, I immersed myself into self-development. But I will always end up not where I want it to be. I'm not just talking about the physical, what we can see, but the internal, the feeling. And I realized it was because who I was developing was still an identity that was not me. So I had to again continue to be unveiling, the unraveling of everything that I had built upon. So that was extremely difficult, but very powerful. Looking back now, that is what gave me intentional direction. Because the more I unveiled, the more my intuition was more pronounced, more certain. It wasn't as, should I do this? Should I do that? I'm not sure. No, I had a clear understanding because I was unraveling who I was not and bringing forth who I am. Now, because of this journey, it led me to even question strength. Like, what? Like, are you born with strength? And then I realized, like, when you come into this world, babies are not strong. I mean, they could barely lift their heads up, right? And as they become toddlers, they're so courageous and brave and fearless, and but definitely not strong. They still need help, right? So I realized, are we in, or did I inherit my strength, or did I develop my strength? Because strength is something, it's a skill that we develop, that we grow, right? And for me, I had an understanding that, and through my transition, that strength as a woman was inherited, but not through the lens of courage, of the lens of, I don't know, it's just my circumstances. It was inherited through the lens of pain, through the circumstances of all the women behind me, not just my mom, generations, lifetimes of women that had carried on so much pain. I was attached to that, not connected by it, right? And I would even go a step further and say it was as if though I was still living this lifetime as their prayer instead of walking into their answered prayer and living into my lifetime in this lifetime, bringing in their courage, bringing in their strength, not with pain, but with what they had accomplished in theirs. Now, this leads me to, being that my background is in the medical health field and I started in critical care, I ran into epigenetics very early on. I was working in trauma in Miami, and the cases that were coming in, I was always very curious, trying to understand. And that is when everything kind of just sparked as things were kind of connecting. So, epigenetics, I want to share a little bit about a study that I think is a perfect example of epigenetics. Basically, it was a study done of rats. These rats were placed in a cage with the gate wide open. But so the rats were actually trying to leave. They have put an electrical shock. So as soon as they touched that line, they would get shocked. They would try, and then they stop trying because they realize every time we try to go through this open gate, I am getting shocked. What happened now is that now these rats had babies. They separated these babies and put them in a whole different cage. And now, as they left a gate wide open and they put no electrical anything in there for them to get shocked. Well, what happened? These rats had never been shocked. They've never seen anyone else get shocked. Remember, they were moved to another cage with the gate wide open, and there was nothing there for it to harm them. But yet they will not leave the cage. And this is literally a beautiful, for me, understanding of epigenetics. Epi means above. Genetics, your genes. So what is it? This is what we're carrying, transgenerational. The genes, what are we carrying above our genes from different generations, from lifetimes of generations that does not belong to us, right? So that would be the expression of epigenetics. They would not leave the gate, even though they've never experienced what even an electrical shock is. They never experienced, they never saw anyone, right? But they stayed in that gate, locked and trapped, because that's what they felt, fear. Now, the next part of this we're learning now is neurogenesis. Although we understand the neurons do not regenerate, the ones that you're born with are the ones that you will leave this earth with. So whatever you're bringing in, it's your memory, it's collecting data. But now, amazingly, every time your body gets shocked or a new experience happens, we are generating new neurons. Not getting rid of anything, just generating. So what happens? It will be an example of one of those rats actually leaving, right? Because eventually somebody would wonder what's happening or just take the risk, not unknowingly. That would shock them, create a new belief. Now we have neurogenesis, not reinforcing an old belief, but redirecting your life, understanding that the gate was wide open this whole time. So this is such a beautiful explanation for me when it comes to what it's like to carry on transgenerational trauma. Transgenerational, so many things that we're carrying on, but that does not belong to us. That's not our circumstances. And instead, how can we focus on carrying their courage, carrying really true the love, the tenacity, audacity to live life, they went through so much through their circumstances. Now I can carry on what I need, but not their pain. And that is what, for me, what it feels like to be connected, but not attached, be held back, right? So now in reading that or explain to you that study that was done in regards to epigenetics, what we carry, and neurogenesis, what can we redirect or are we reinforcing, right? This right here is the product of a strong woman. How are we redefining our strength? How are we walking into this lifetime, into this generation, right? How are we honoring the women behind us? How are we honoring them? And that is what my journey has been. So in this podcast, I will be bringing amazing women. I'm just beyond excited because it's like not just what I'm speaking or the other person, it is through the conversations. What is it going to come out? That is what excites me the most. So now that we talked about that and how we have the power to redirect, to recreate our reality, now the topic of the episode is called Stepping into a New Era. Now, just the name, just the title, you would think of that I'm going up, right? Stepping into, but actually stepping into is you're going into something. It's not really saying that you're going up, down, backwards. You're just stepping into something new. And for me, I really want to start this podcast with this episode because right now, the era that I'm stepping into is this, right? I am creating this podcast. I am bringing to life everything that has been held within me for so long, that I've been in this journey of healing, understanding the strength of a woman. But there was a time where I very much intentionally chose to step into the era of healing, step into the era of darkness, step into the era of anger. And I understood that I was not going back because we're continuously going forward. Although sometimes we might hear like, oh, that person doesn't change, or I feel like I'm stuck, everything's moving forward. From the earth, from the core, if you think about it, everything's going forward. The only thing is, are we going forward reinforcing what is not for us? Or are we going forward redirecting and evolving into new experiences? Or are we re-evolving into old experiences, right? So stepping into a new era, I just want you to just kind of think of like, what era are you stepping into at this particular time? Or are you even intentionally stepping into an era to where you want to go? Because if you want to create this different type of reality, or let's say if it's a job, a career, love, relationships, what would that person need to go? What would that person need to understand, right? So that was the journey, and that is stepping into a new era. I want to also even take it a step further and say, who is stepping into this new era and who will be leaving, right? That will be maybe towards the end after you probably understand or have that feeling when that completion has been done, and have an understanding of what was left behind that is no longer coming forth. What is required though is redirecting. And just because we're staying in a healing time, in a time of, for me, was going back a lot, seeing things now from a different lens, not of a lens of pain, of why did this happen to me? Why did I have to experience this? That was never the reason to go back. It was always, what do I need to learn from this? Show me what do I need so that I can get over here. Right? I know that there's a better life. I had a certainty. I went back to almost like as if I was a baby. I know that I am loved, and I am loving. So show me, what do I need to do? So every time we'll go back to memory with hypnotherapy, that's what happens. We go back to memories that created either most likely reinforced beliefs. So as every time I went back with different eyes. I went back with different lens, and I came out with a different perspective. and the different perspective created a whole new reality for me, you know? So this is something that I really want to just really leave. And that is stepping into a new era. What am I stepping into? So you could intentionally take actions. And I'm always moving forward. Am I moving forward reinforcing or redirecting? And that will literally create a whole new shift in your life. Is it difficult? Yes. Why? Because, as I mentioned earlier, what had to happen? Identity of self, completely. I had to disconnect. My identity of strength shattered. But I never questioned that I'm not strong, because I was able to say, okay, well, I got this far. I went to New York. I did this. I've gone through all of this. So I am strong. But I'm not my mother. I'm not my I'm not generations of women that had to deal with their strength differently, right? So this is just an amazing time, I think, to be alive, because there's so much information out there. And most importantly, all the answers are held within you. But because the answers are held within you, you must reveal your true self. And that is by actually understanding and whatever is it that you are re-experiencing over and over again, taking a very compassionate look at it and saying, hey, is this something that I'm experiencing, or is this something that I'm carrying through generations? And this is how the beauty of redefining my strength came about, which then I realized strength is an attribute. Something else that women, we always strive for, confidence. It's an attribute. That is not who I am. Whatever we say I am must come to life. My reality must create it so that I can say, hey, this is who I am. This is my identity. To verify this is it. So what happens if when I said I am a strong woman, every time I had to, when things seemed peaceful and calm, it was completely shifted, or what we call self-sabotage, things of that matter. Why? Because it did not align with what I identified as strong. In regards to confidence, now if I have a goal that I am going to be confident at all times, that is a very, very difficult goal to have. Why? Because confidence is not something I need to carry with me all the time. I don't need to be confident to just lay down and relax. I don't need to be confident to just go out and just have a nice night out with my friends. I don't need confidence every single day, every single minute. But I do need confidence at certain times in my life. So what I personally have done is that I have imagined this powerful bag that I carry, right? And in this bag, I carry my strength, my courage, my bravery, things that I need, my tools. I have these tools in my powerful bag because I have mastered them. Now what happens every time I need it, because I know I'm going to step into a moment that I need to, right now, example, do this podcast, courage, confidence, right? I know I have mastered them. So now I bring it out, and it's not been overused. So I feel confident. I feel courageous. I don't feel fear of bringing and sharing this with you, right? So what did I end up with? How do I identify myself as now? As a 40-year-old woman, a mom of two. Very simple. I went back to where it all began. And I say, one of my meditations, it came up as if I am love, I am loved, and I am loving. Once I understand that is my identity, well, what happens? My reality that I am currently creating is quite compassionate to myself. I understand that that's what I am. I'm not looking for it, because that's another episode we're going to be talking about. What happens when you feel unloved, and how we carry that through our lives in our relationships. But now that I identify as, most importantly, I am love. If you think of it as a baby, when you see a brand new baby, we're all like wanting to hold it. We're not thinking of that they're dirty, they're like drooling, none of that. And the baby does not feel any way either. They could be pooped, they could be like screaming, but they understand that they want to be loved. I am loved and I am loving. I give, I receive at the core, and that's what I am. Now, everything else is in my powerful bag. And my master tools, whenever I need them, whenever I need to work on them, they come right out. Not overused, but ready to go forth and ready to be presented. So I am just so excited for this journey in my life because I just want to, my intention with this podcast is just to gather and have so many amazing stories of very strong, powerful women. Because again, that's even another episode in regards to strength and being powerful. I even said it in the book, right? For a long time, I felt strong, but never powerful, which that is your innate. That is how you are born, rooted in love. So, first guest, I am so excited. I won't tell you who it is, but the topic I will tell you, it's about friendship. And it is how does friendship play a role in a woman's life, which builds on her strength? Because we know we need those friends that really support us and really guide us through, and not even, it's just to be there, not to tell us what to do. It's never even about that. It's just to have your presence there, right? So my next episode is going to be my first guest. The topic is going to be on friendship, and it's going to be such an amazing, amazing episode. I can't wait to share that one with you. And I'm going to leave you with one last question. And this is something I'm going to be asking many women in this podcast. And that is, what has another woman left in your journey that will be passed down to another woman? Because that in itself right there, for me, that is legacy. That is legacy. That is what we carry. That is when you have a conversation with someone and say, man, you don't even have to speak of her experience, of what knowledge, wisdom she left within you, but you carry her in there with you. And that is what I will leave this question for everyone, and I would love to hear your answers. I would love to hear what has another powerful, loving woman has left within you that will be passed down to another woman in your journey. So thank you so much. This means the world to me. I am stepping into this new era of creating, and I am using my tool of courage, of so much amazing things to share this time with you. Thank you, and have an amazing, amazing day. Bye.